Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, the show where we look at the highs and the lows from the football weekend just past. But before we get onto some surprise packages from the FA Cup, Joe, because of course the third round has just been played out, we're going to tap into the magic of the Cup on this week's show. I want to talk about packages of a different variety. Okay? And that is a hell of a segue. Please put some respect on it in the comments because this week's show is sponsored by Manscaped. And of course, they've just launched in the UK and Europe with the best tools for your below-the-waist grooming experience. And to help you out, because it can be tough down there sometimes, can't it, to maintain, they've just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. Amazing names, by the way. It's got a ceramic blade. It's got skin-safe features, a 90-minute battery, and more importantly, it's waterproof. So you can do it in the shower, no fuss, no mess. And there's also a travel bag for when we can travel again. Or you can just stuff, toiletries that you've stole from hotels in it for the time being, like I do with mine. So if you're a fan of Football Daily and want to support us, you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code FootballDaily at manscaped.com. That's 20% off at manscaped.com. Use the code FootballDaily. The links will be in the description below. Right. Let's crack on with the show, okay?
Yes.
And, you can do your crack if you want as well, Joe. The talking point this week, we're going to keep you on the edge of your seat for the FA Cup chat because we're starting with some transfer rumours, aren't we?
Yeah.
And it is your beloved Manchester United who are seemingly out of the race for one star and then straight in the race for another. Shall we start with Moises Caicedo?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Because it's a big week for Manchester United this coming week, isn't it? Play Burnley tomorrow night in our game in hand, the chance to go 3 points clear at the top of the Premier League. And then, of course, the away trip to Anfield to see if United can become the team that breaks that Anfield hoodoo. Of course, their home record is absolutely incredible, isn't it? So it's a big week for Manchester United, and it could be a big month in the transfer market as well. I was speaking on We Need to Talk on Friday, wasn't I, about the player Manchester United needed to sign. I did one player each Premier League club needs, and I suggested Moises Caicedo, heavily linked to the club by a lot of South American journalists for about £4 to £5 million. It seems now that deal isn't going to happen. Moises Caicedo gave an interview in which he said he didn't want to go and play in the Champions League and in the Europa League straight away. He wanted to take a stepping stone into Europe, as he called it, and it seems like that move is going to be to a slightly lower echelons Premier League club. Now, Brighton are favourites to sign him at the moment, which would make you very happy because you're a massive Graham Potter stan. But yeah, it seems like that move isn't going to happen. United have obviously been trying to recruit much younger recently. You've seen Facundo Pellistri come in. You've seen Ahmed Diallo. There's been a lot of youth level signings over the last 12 months at Manchester United, trying to approach the market in a slightly different way during the coronavirus period, it looks like. And that could have moved us onto a different target from Ligue 1, right, Hamster?
Yeah, there are rumours circulating that Ollie is ready to step up his interest in 21-year-old Boubakary Soumaré from Lille instead. And this has taken me by surprise a little bit, Tomlinson. I'm not sure about you.
Don't know who he is.
Because he's a different sort of player to Caicedo, isn't he? Who is definitely more box-to-box. He offers an attacking threat going forward. That is certainly not Soumaré's forte. I mean, for starters, it's extremely odd that he's being touted as a Paul Pogba replacement. I think some tabloids need to recheck their headlines because, like I said, he showed no attacking prowess in his time at Lille. And his minutes have been limited, to be fair to him. So his game could evolve in any direction at the moment. We just don't have that much data to work with. But he did establish himself last season in a double pivot, playing with Benjamin Andre, making 15 starts as, of course, Lille finished fourth in the Champions League spots in that truncated season. I think only 28 games were played all in all. But he would be, I suppose, if you're looking at the dynamic of the Manchester United squad, a Nemanja Matic replacement, if anything. But even then, his defensive numbers last season and this season inferior to that of Scott McTominay. So it's not like Manchester United are going out and buying a ready-made destroyer in the 21-year-old. He would have to develop his game for 6 months to a year, I would assume, before he was first team ready. Especially with your double pivot looking quite settled now with Fred and McTominay, right, rotating in and out for Pogba, Van der Beek. And according to the Mirror, AC Milan have been priced out of a move already, so it doesn't look like he's going to go on the cheap. But saying that, he did turn down a move to Newcastle last season for £35 million. So I imagine it will be around that amount again, especially given as his contract is up in 2022. Doesn't make the negotiating position all that strong for Lille, I guess. But I am a little bit concerned that they were willing to let him go last campaign for 35 mil, because they do hold out, and get top dollar for their prodigious young talents most of the time, don't they? We saw it with Victor Osimhen. They got a huge fee for him. I just a little bit uninspired by his numbers. I'm excited by his potential, but I think he should stay at Lille and rack up a really meaningful amount of minutes. I mean, you just kind of said at the top of this section, you don't really know who he is. But do you think this is even the right move? Is this the right area of the pitch?
Well, United are definitely going to try and sign a defensive midfielder come the summer. I don't think United are going to look for a direct Paul Pogba replacement. Absolutely not. He's kind of been playing as a floating left winger over the last few weeks for Manchester United to a little bit more success. He's actually started to pick up a little bit of form, seems to have regained that fitness, but he's going to leave in the summer, Paul Pogba. They've got Donny van der Beek in there to play a little bit more of a varied role. He can play central midfield, he can play attacking midfield. So I think United will look to bring in a more genuine defensive midfielder come the summer. Don't know an awful lot about Soumaré, so if he can develop over the next 6 months, that would be very exciting. But wherever United go, I doubt it will be a direct like-for-like Pogba replacement. I think they've bought that in Donny van der Beek, or at least a similar sort of vibe that can play multiple positions. They'll now look to sign an out-and-out defensive midfielder, centre-back, striker, right winger. Those will be the 4 areas that I think United will move for. But what do you guys at home think? Anybody seen a lot of Boubakary Soumaré and can tell me, is he Manchester United's level? If he is, let me know in the comments below. If he's not, just keep your mouth shut, because I'm trying to be positive. Before you do anything else, if you are new to Football Daily and you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn notifications on to never miss a video, and hit that like button as well whilst you're down there. We're moving on now to our first winners of the FA Cup weekend. Of course, it had to be Crawley Town. This was submitted by Rachel7000. And in the words of George Wright, they dished out the biggest L in football management history by bringing on Towie star Mark Wright in a Soccer-Aid-style manoeuvre at 3-0 whilst playing a Premier League team. This is the ultimate drop-the-mic moment, Amster.
Yeah, League 2. It's Crawley Town with their £1.8 million annual wage budget, humbling Marcelo Bielsa's men 3-0 at the People Pensions Stadium. That sentence literally couldn't have got less glamorous if I tried. And it's the first time in their 70-year history that they've beaten top-flight opposition. So, arguably, the best game in the club's history. And they did it in style, even out-shooting the Yorkshire side by 15-14. This wasn't a smash and grab, Tomlinson.
No.
They deserved this thoroughly. Now, for perspective, that's how many shots the average Premier League side averages against Leeds in league play, at the very least. So, toe-to-toe indeed. Now, 10 years ago, Crawley were playing in the conference. Now, in 2021... Giant Slayers, they can look forward to an FA Cup 4th round tie, and if they win, they could earn themselves 100k in prize money, which is pretty significant in this climate. So a really good feel-good story, for everyone, unless you're a Leeds fan, of course. But moment of the weekend, I know you mentioned the Mark Wright thing, but it shouldn't overshadow former Tottenham youth player, Nicholas Tussarella, am I pronouncing that right? Beating 4 Leeds players to score his first senior goal. There was even an element of fate about his inclusion. He was Crawley's only change from the side which beat Bolton the weekend prior. Nicholas was involved in a car accident in 2017, pretty well documented now after his exploits on Twitter, and he missed a year of football. So he was then released, played for a year in Brentford's development squad, and eventually made his way to Crawley. So, like I said, really good feel story. Give me a redemption narrative all day over the FA Cup final. This is the best round of the competition as far as I'm concerned. But maybe it was the words, Joe, of Tyson Fury that inspired Crawley before the game, just to make things even more bizarre.
Hey, this is Tyson Fury. This is a special message to Crawley Town. Hi guys, I know you got a big game against Leeds, but never underestimate the underdog. I've been the underdog so many times in my career and always come out on top. Come on, the boys!
Okay, let's talk about the day's fat L merchant, Marcelo Bielsa. Absolutely delighted. You know, I just have images of him doing hours of tactical work on Mark Wright and having to genuinely draw up Soccer Aid games to find any footage. It's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, Leeds do have a bit of an unwelcome habit of exiting the FA Cup in fairly humiliating fashion, don't they? They've gone out to Histon, they've gone out to Newport, Sutton, Rochdale over the years. So not great against smaller sides, but rarely is a Premier League side on the end of a hiding from a lower league side. Like you said, this was not a smash and grab. This was a bit of a rollover. It's only the second time a top flight side has lost by a 3-goal margin to fourth tier opposition in the FA Cup after Oxford lost to Aldershot in 1987. So this is pretty rare. And this was a pretty strong Leeds team too. Not their starting 11 necessarily, but quite a few starting names in there. You know, £27 million international Rodrigo on the pitch. Liam Cooper was there, Helder Costa, Calvin Phillips, who seems to be struggling a little bit of late. And given the strength of their lineup, it was no surprise to see Leeds were going to have a lot of the ball, were they? 71%. But as we've seen consistently this season with Leeds, they are very vulnerable at the back. And Bielsa ball was firmly undone by a 4th division side on Saturday. Let's have it right. Crawley were the much better team. And, you know, it's easy for people to go and banter Marcelo Bielsa now on Twitter, isn't it? Because he is a little bit of a whipping boy amongst certain communities on football Twitter for losing to some quite heavy margins. I still back the man, but this was very, very humiliating, it has to be said. It's now 10 games without defeat, though, for Crawley. Let's put a bit more positivity on their name. Leeds have Brighton next. I mean, that game could be a laughable mess, even though two managers that are very highly thought of. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. It could either be 6-0 to Leeds or 0-0 because Brighton can't score a goal. But either way, fantastic for Crawley Town, isn't it? Hats off to him. And, you know, Bielsa, just hold the L of Mark Wright, mate.
Our losers this week then come from @Sean15 Mackenzie, and it's Steve Bruce's Newcastle, who are still, quelle surprise, dull as dishwater, Tomlinson.
Yeah, I mean, that is being kind to dishwater as well, because they are the epitome. If you look up the word boring in the dictionary, you'll find a picture of Steve Bruce's starting 11 at Newcastle, because they are unwatchable at the moment. Now, it's no shame, is it, to lose 2-0 away at the Emirates against Arsenal after extra time as well, taking them right to the wire, really. But the fact that they've not scored from open play in 8 hours now effectively sums it up. It's so dry to watch. You know, we could have spoken about Derby County losing to Chorley, but it was kind of a Derby County D team, wasn't it? We could have spoken about West Brom to Blackpool, but couldn't really be bothered. Wanted to really dive into how unwatchable, miserable life is for Newcastle fans right now, because I think a lot of Newcastle fans think the same as us, that it is getting to the point where something has to change. Even though they're doing okay statistically in the Premier League on the surface, when you watch 90 minutes of them, you quickly realise why Newcastle fans hate it so much. In this game, 2 shots on target in 90 minutes plus stoppages. And one of them came right at the death. It was Andy Carroll to Bernd Leno. But he was probably the best player for Newcastle on the night, and that sums it up, doesn't it? He took 9 shots. I don't know how the hell Andy Carroll took 9 shots, scrubbing around with his face on the dirt, heading the ball from 30 yards at goal like an earthworm. But yeah, 5 of those shots were blocked or saved. 4 came from outside the area. Just non-existent in extra time. Didn't even push for a goal. No shots. Arsenal took 8. I mean, the game plan, it's obvious, isn't it? Whack it as hard as you can and as high as you can to Andy Carroll, because he is going to win aerial duels, and he won 14 of them on the weekend, which is a ridiculous number, given Arsenal won 16 as a team. But I just can't watch them. I feel sorry for Newcastle fans. The tune watching, I can only but apologise, because you deserve better.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting that I mean, Andy Carroll deserves a bit of game time. Scored that sweet goal against Leicester, re-announcing himself to the Toon faithful after scoring for them last over a decade ago. But it was a long ball or peppering the Arsenal box with crosses was an interesting tactic, because actually that's one of the few things that Arteta's Arsenal have excelled at this season, at least when it comes to set pieces. They've actually only conceded 11% of their set pieces against in the Premier League this season, which is the best in the division. So poor Andy Carroll had his work cut out from the get-go. It's not like he was, there to take advantage of a vulnerable Arsenal. I think only 2 of the headers he won that you mentioned came inside the Arsenal box. So they dealt with that problem with his physicality relatively easy, apart from that scare, like you said, at the very last second. And even though Arsenal were the best side, and yes, Newcastle's negativity was pretty profound, they weren't really hitting or firing on all cylinders, let's say, until Smith-Rowe, Xhaka and Saka came on for Nelson, Willian and Willock. And I think, in fact, up until that point, they'd only created 2 more opportunities than Newcastle. So it was fairly balanced until that triple substitution between 64, 65 minutes. And Smith-Rowe, who opened the scoring with a lovely driven finish, that was his 2nd goal of the campaign in all competitions.
The hail end
was actually red carded, wasn't he? And it was later rescinded, rightly so. Soft challenge. VAR got involved. Chris Kavanagh went over to the pitchside monitor, and everything, panned out the way it should. And then Kieran Tierney grabbed himself a 2nd assist, only a 2nd assist of the season. Pretty astounding given the consistency of his deliveries, by teeing up Aubameyang, who of course will be very grateful to break his duck. That's his 5th goal in all competitions. He needs to start putting them together now, doesn't he? Going to run. Kieran Tierney, I was looking for sort of standouts in this game for Arsenal. 6 chances created for him. No one else got over 2, so he continues to be their sort of creative outlet, I guess, down the left. I think he's provided the most opportunities for them in the Premier League as well this campaign. So he's gone from playing left centre-back to being unleashed at left-back in a 4, hasn't he? I'm sure he much prefers that. And Arsenal, like they normally do, progress to the 4th round. I think that's 24 times in the last 25 years they've successfully navigated that tricky 3rd round, only losing to Nottingham Forest in 2018. So, yeah, they've excel in this competition, don't they? And maybe Arteta will find a bit of a safe haven in it once again this term, although their league form has picked up, hasn't it? Arteta, was safe to say he was pretty happy with Smith-Rowe after the game, although you just can see they should have wrapped it up much earlier.
I think we had more enough chances to put the game to bed much earlier, but when you don't do it in the opponent's box and the game is open, you know that you're going to leave a situation or 2 for them to score, and that's when in knockout stages you need your goalkeeper to save you, and Bernd did in a crucial moment. And then when we took our chances, we won the game, and I think overall we fully deserve to be there.
All right, moving on very quickly to our moments of the weekend then. Only one place to go for me. It is to Manchester United. Pretty boring display, but nevertheless fantastic to see Scott McTominay captain the club he's been at since the age of 5 and score as captain. Might not be the most technically gifted player, but gives 100% every time he's on the field, and that was a real good feel-good story for me at the weekend, Hamster.
Yeah, he spoke really well after the game as well, didn't he? He has that sort of presence. You can definitely see certain leadership qualities in him. I mean, Crawley antics aside, Louis Barry scoring as a 17-year-old at Villa Park. Chorley FC with their little rendition of Adele, which has become a tradition after beating Derby. You might get a snippet of that at the very end if you stick around, almost like a Marvel film. We'll stick that in there for you. But it was a real good FA Cup 3rd round. It was the tonic that I needed, Joe, to get me going for this year. So kicked proceedings off in a really good fashion. But what else can people watch now if they've made it to this point of winners and losers?
Why not go and check out We Need to Talk? I ran through, as I said earlier in the video, 1 player each Premier League club should be signing this January. So your club will have featured somewhere if you're a Premier League fan.
Exactly. Like, subscribe to the channel. Go and check out Euro Football Daily as well. And we'll catch you on Winners and Losers next week. Bye.
Forget me, I remember you said, sometimes it has to love, but sometimes it hurts.